So Zen from SingPost will be kicking off this session with a quick sharing about SingPost, then followed by which we will have Jeffrey, who will then proceed with a quick sharing of the first challenge statement today, titled Seeking Technologies to Enable Accurate Delivery of Postal Mail to Letterboxes. So over to you, Zen.
Hi, Heidi. Thanks for the introduction. Jeffrey, could I trouble you to share the screen?
Okay.
Okay. Can you tap to the introduction slide? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon for some of you who are not in Singapore. Welcome to take part in our briefing session. So, like Heidi mentioned very briefly, right? So, SingPost is a company with a lot of history. It's been about 160 years since we started serving a nation in Singapore for postal services. The infrastructure in itself, as you can see, especially for those who are not in Singapore, is interesting. We have been having a very well-built infrastructure in terms of a letterbox, in terms of posting boxes, in terms of post offices to serve the nation. So as you could imagine, right, as we traveled through 160 years of history, as we evolved from a very basic standard letterbox into the current built-up letterbox nest, it had been done with traditional letters in our mind. So for this problem statement, we are looking at how and in what ways we could, retrofit our letterboxes or take on additional wearables, IoT devices, technology, right, that could help us keep in line with the times right now of digitalization. So later on, Jeffrey would help us to do the further explanation. Jeffrey, please. Jeffrey, are you able to? Yeah.
Can the host enable my video, please? I can't seem to start my video. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Zen, for the wonderful introduction to SingPost. A good afternoon to most of us in Singapore, and to the rest, a good day. As Zen has shared, we have over 160 years of experience serving the nation. Now, we have shared in the two slides, these earlier slides and these slides, how we have evolved over the time, in meeting the changes in the postal landscape. But however, what we still remember is that we are the designated public postal licensee in Singapore. Right? We will never forget, and we always take our national obligation very seriously. That's why we are always on the lookout for new ways of delivering, ensuring that we still fulfill our obligation to deliver a trusted and dependable service to the nation. Right? So I'll be walking you through a couple of things. Firstly, I'll introduce you to a little bit more on the letterbox infrastructure. Then I bring you behind the curtain in a way to see what the postman has to do in delivering your items to your letterbox. And then I'll bring you to the challenges that you are facing. And finally, what are some of the desired outcomes you want to see in the solutions that you're going to propose to us, right? So as Zen has mentioned, now in Singapore, our postal delivery is actually very much optimized and engineered, to deliver items to what we call the letterbox nest. Almost 80% of postal addresses in Singapore can be delivered via a letterbox nest, and these are located typically under at the foot of the dwellings that the residents or the recipients are staying or working, if it's a commercial building. So this is also one of the reasons why Singapore actually has the lowest or one of the lowest number of serving postmen per capita population. And this is also the reason why we are able to keep our postage rates low enough to spur and to actually benefits the e-commerce deliveries. So to all of you here, the opportunities are huge in as we pursue technologies and solutions, that can not only enable us to enhance accurate delivery, but also at the same time to keep efficiency high, cost low, and to grow the e-commerce market as well. So let's take a look at what does it take for a postman to deliver your items to your letterbox for those of you staying in Singapore. Right? On average, our postman covers about 20 blocks a day. His days typically starts at the delivery center where he would have to sort together, pack together your mails, your letters, your magazines, together with your e-commerce packets that is going to the letterbox nest. You pack them sort them according to the level, and then once he's done, he bundle everything, load them into his vehicle before he went out for delivery. As you might have expected, majority of his time is actually spent on the road, delivering item to the letterbox, to your letterbox. Right? Now, when he is at the letterbox nest, a list of things that he has to do, one includes reaching out for the right keys to unlock the master door. Then he starts to distribute the item. On average, a block typically has 2 to 3 letterbox nests, depending on how many residents residing in the block. And if you look at a picture on the top right-hand corner, you notice that one letterbox nest typically comprises of 2 or 3 panels. We call it panels, and each of them is secured by the master door. As you can see in the picture here, is about 3 panels. Right? So you can imagine once he's done with one panel, he proceeds to the next panel. And then once he's done with the nest, he proceeds to the next nest, and then to the next building until he finishes his delivery. So I suppose now you have a better appreciation of the hard work the postman has to undergo in order to deliver your letters to your letterbox. I encourage the next time you came across your postman serving your block, do say hi to him. Right? Now, so then let's now go into the details and discuss what are the challenges actually our postman face. Point to note that I'm only highlighting key challenges that are relevant to the problem statement. I roughly break them into 2 large categories. One is about legibility of the addresses. We know today we are doing a lot of shopping, a lot of senders are sending from all over the place in different shapes and forms, different type of packaging. This adds certain difficulty in our postman reading the address label. Why? Firstly, the address, the packaging material may be not solid, maybe it's a plastic wrapper and so on. So when the wrapper is pasted on it, it may be crumpled. It may not be straight, it may not be well aligned. There's one. Secondly, the label itself. Items are coming from all over the world, right? And in different sizes, again, as I mentioned earlier. But e-commerce merchants typically has a full set of information that needs to be printed on the label. If the item is small, you can imagine they're cramping a huge amount of information into a very small real estate. And what happens? They will reduce the font size to very small as it can get. And at times also we see printouts that are fading away, after all the handling along the way before it comes to our postman. So this is just one aspect of the challenges. Now, if you now look at the letterbox, earlier, remember I was telling you, postman have to reach out for the right keys to unlock the master door panel. Why is that so? In case none of you is aware, actually SingPost don't own the letterbox nest. Right? The developer of the building would typically engage their own supplier that will design and fabricate before they hand over the master key to us. So you can imagine, we have many bunches of master door keys for different locations. So that's one. 2, most of these master doors are using what we call mechanical locks. After every day of opening, closing, due to wear and tear, some of these locks don't latch very well on first attempt. So postman has to spend a fair bit amount of time and a fair bit amount of strength to try and ensure the locks are latched properly and the door are closed properly. Imagine earlier I shared a nest maybe have 3 sets of doors. A block may have 3 nests, and then you're covering 20 blocks. So you do the math, how much of closing and checking our postman have to do, right? But nothing beats the last part of it, which is the repetitive manual mapping of addresses in the label to the correct letterbox. Can you imagine our postman is actually doing a real-time, looking at the address on the label and trying to find the right letterbox? To make it even more difficult is that earlier I was telling you the letterbox was designed by different fabricators. So there is no standard layout. There is no confirm that the layout, the labeling is in certain order and so on. So I hope with this you have an even better appreciation of our postman. So this is why this year we decided to take part in this, and the problem statement that we are looking out for is to seek for solutions with relevant technologies, not only enable us to increase the accuracy of delivery, we are hoping to reduce human error and also to provide preemptive maintenance measures as well, maybe alerts, maybe a notification, something like that. So what are the outcomes that we look out for in the solutions that you might be providing for us? In a nutshell, the primary outcomes would be surrounding around accurate delivery as well as reducing human error. Now, I would like to also request that do not lose attention on the secondary outcomes. These include low maintenance, ease of use, weatherproof, all-day battery life, because all these will impact the eventual rollout. Right? And we would also like to urge solution providers to think beyond just providing devices for the postman. You could take a step back, look at the entire delivery process that I have described to you earlier, and maybe could think of something to enhance the sorting at the upstream, or maybe even redesign the whole letterbox nest. Right. So as mentioned, this year is the first year, so we are actually very excited and looking forward to the solutions that you might be proposing for us. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you for your time. So I leave the slide at the problem statement. Yes? Yes,
thanks, Jeffrey, for the very informative sharing. This is the first time I actually heard the whole workflow process of a milk delivery man. It's definitely very hard work. Not only they have to deal with the sheer volumes of delivery, but also the different types of infrastructure of the different I'll say letterbox nests, as you mentioned. Yes. So I invite the guests and the participants in this sharing today to post your questions to Jeffrey and his team. Feel free to type your question in the Q&A function below, where you can post some of the questions, and we can see if we can get the SingPost team to answer the best they can. Please also note that we will also address and prioritize questions related to the challenge statement, and we will take any other questions offline and address it via email. Okay, I see one question coming in. So Jeffrey, are you expecting your potential solution partners to deliver both in terms of hardware and software?
Okay, yes, ideally, because we are not a software company, also neither a hardware company. Yeah, yes, I'll be looking forward to a full package solution, definitely.
Okay, full package. So ideally, it's both hardware and software. So are you looking in terms of your, kind of like a solutions tag to the postman delivery, or is it related to the infrastructure, the letterbox nest? Or is it either or? Whichever is the best.
Actually, we are open. We are open to either, because yeah, the best solution out there might be the entire chain.
Okay, So I think I would invite, interested participants here to consider and propose different ideas to SingPost, be it, a tag worn by your delivery man, or perhaps, something that's attached to the letterboxes as well. Perhaps you never know what might be potentially the best solution as well. So we have another question. As we move into a digital solution, would there be an electrical point access for solution providers to utilize? So right now, I think the audience mentioned that they don't think that the letterbox comes equipped with it.
You are right. Today, letterbox is just a dummy box. There isn't any power supply to it, but because of the location, let's say in the residential at the foot of a housing block, typically we are able to then work with the relevant town councils to pull in any power supply line if we require. But better still, if your solution can work on battery pack that can last for months or years, that is even better. So the challenge back to the team, to think and deliver the best low power requirement solution for us.
Okay, so the best option is if there's a battery pack that comes together with the solution that is being provided. So that's the best way potentially forward.
Yeah, correct.
So I don't think there are any more questions at this point in time. We can also collate more questions at the end of SingPost presentation. So at this point in time, thanks Jeffrey for sharing. Perhaps we can move on to Xavier, also from the SingPost team, who will be sharing more about the challenge statement titled Seeking Technologies to Enable Tracking and Tracing of Postal Articles. So similarly, we will have Xavier share a brief background of the problem statements, and we can take any questions and answers at the end of the sharing.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, let me go through my presentation. Thank you for everyone taking your time to attend to this webinar. Firstly, this is the table of contents on the track and trace problem statement. So for those who have just joined us, I will just have a brief touch on the background of SingPost, followed by our problem statement and what we are looking for, and I'll give a summary of our problem statement. So for SingPost, earlier on, Dan has shared that we have been in Singapore for 160 years, and we are continuing to deliver high quality service to our customer as we are still the appointed public postal licensee. Okay. In SingPost, we have over 130,000 delivery touch points and to even 1.8 million units daily over the weekend. Over the week. We have a deep postal obligation and high service level agreement to commit to, and we wanted to lead the urban logistics service provider, championing efficiency and dependency. Okay, so track and trace in SingPost. So for our products, we have ready infrastructure set to trace our postal product. However, it depends on the premium, the level of service product that you are looking for and the touch point that we will reach. So this slide shows end-to-end flow of your poster from the sender all the way to the recipient. As you can see, there's a real channels of posting. From overseas, we have a posting from overseas as well as a local customer. And the channel to receive all these posts can be via a post office or through the street posting box. Of course, for the track product, you can actually do all your registration and get a tracking number from the post office, and we will be tracked along the way on each of the processing center to the endpoint where the recipient receives. So from the flowchart, you can see all the barcoding scanning icon that indicate that these are the touch points that we are able to capture a transaction or a processing of your mail item till the end of the recipient. Whereas for the postman, they are using a mobile device to capture and for the timestamp of the item being tracked. Unfortunately, as you can see from the flow, there are still pockets of areas that we can enhance to improve the traceability and feed live data to our control center and feed across different products. So what innovation are we looking for? From the industry, I believe there are some ready technology and some developing or advanced technology that we have yet to explore. NFC, Bluetooth, and RFID are areas that we hope to enhance in the understanding, and maybe it can be applied to our existing flow. NB-IoT is something new that we want to look into it, as well as invisible barcoding or image capturing recognition. And lastly, OCR is areas that technology could enhance our processing flow. So with all this technology that available in the market that can up the level of track and trace, we could actually better standardize our SOP. So track service are already available for all of our premier post and parcel delivery. We would like to include more touch points for live data feed throughout the existing asset distribution island-wide. So it will help us to extend the traceability coverage for other economical postal products. So with the idea of boosting supply chain traceability for a secure delivery, Post and Parcel is the core of SingPost business. Besides providing a wide range of delivery solutions, we constantly look for technology innovation to cater to the current and future needs. So by leveraging on the latest technology from the industry, we aim to provide a secure delivery through this postal network for our customer. So I would like to take some question about this trend.
Sorry, Xavier. So maybe if we go back to the problem statement here, right, just to add on a bit in this part. Yeah. So as you can see right now, we do already have track and trace. So we are not really asking for you to, if I can clarify, right, the problem is not that we do not have track and trace, but the challenge right now is that there is sporadic parts, especially in ordinary mail, that we do not have the track and trace. And in order for us to offer a full visibility into the entire network, we do think that we need to explore newer options out there in the market. Like Xavier, if you could go back to the possible solutions slide again. Yeah, so there are some solutions out here that I think you might be familiar with already, but there are challenges, like for example, if it is an NFC or an RFID solution, one-for-one, the cost might be prohibitive for selected products. So bear in mind, again, we are talking about post and parcel. Items of the cost of the items itself might not be able to bear, cutting edge technology that requires NFC that is more than a few cents. We also know that there are out there, the cutting edge stuff with OCR that can do image ID and all. But yeah, do consider that part as well. Any solution we put forward do need to be able to be better than what we have today, that we are using already a 2D barcode and scanner environment. So we are open for your suggestion to look at the better ones that eventually, if it's so good and so economic, we'll apply it to all of our postal products as well. Okay, Xavier. Heidi, maybe you want to take the questions?
Okay, so once again, I'd like to invite the audience and the participants joining us here today to post your questions in the Q&A tab on the right below. Okay, I see a question coming in. So the question here to Xavier and team is, can we use a combination of solutions, for example, RFID and blockchain?
Yeah, so maybe I'll take this question. I think we are open, but I do note that RFID is, I think at this current market, does have a certain cost factor to it that we might not be palatable enough for us. But blockchain, I think in the underlying technology is something we can definitely explore for sure.
Okay. And what is the expected cost per post and parcel? We have another audience that asked that question.
Yeah, so maybe for this part, we might want to take it later on when, for selected participants to understand further about business, and we could probably share some figures to that. So I would like to defer this question for the moment. So maybe let us know what ideas first. I mean, we don't want to be too restrictive, right? If I tell you I want something that's 1 cent, and it's not possible, then it's not a good start. I'd rather we go in terms of more unconstrained. We do have a postage that is right out there today. That's about 30 cents for a letter, and on about $1 to $1.20 for a basic packet. So that will be your big bulk of volume. But I think for the technology, let's look at it from the technology first. We do not want to queue all the ideas, and then we will then need to go through the process to see, which are the better fitting ones.
Okay, sure. So I think I would like to invite and use this opportunity to also invite, the startups to, submit their proposals. I think SingPost and team is more than willing to sit down and scope, a better solution together with each of your team as well. Okay, we have the next question. Are you looking at track and trace for all letters and articles, or only to selected nest with better infrastructure? Because I think at this point in time, the audience, this particular participant, pointed out that there is no infrastructure support for common nest, and capex can be a bit high. So I wanted to check in with your team on your understanding of this as well.
Yeah, so I think overall, once again, is if most of the participants here were also from the last call, right? What we are looking at is to find solutions that will boost our supply chain traceability, track and trace capability by having a standardized process and system integration that will allow, end of the day, a live data tracking on our assets and our people, and to automate anything that is manual today. So to this point, right, if you look at this problem statement by itself, it might not make sense. But if you look at it with two problem statements together, then the front part that Jeffrey shared about will provide that hardware capability or scanning capability at the end destination to then leverage together with this problem statement solution.
Okay. The next question that audience posed is, can they have some dummy data to work with to develop a prototype using blockchain?
Yeah.
So is your team prepared to come up with a dummy?
I think the technical problem, definitely no problem. So anything to do with dummy data, for any shortlisted participants who feel interested to move on with us, let's go through the details. I think even to the point of, do we want a deeper dive into the processes, working sessions, an hour or two to really go deep into the process, plus the data, plus dummy data templates. We could do that.
Okay, great to hear that your team is open to working with startups as well in this aspect, coming up with a prototype. Okay, next question. I think this is more relating to your current slide. We have a participant that inquired into the difference between the dotted red lines and the green solid lines. I think the participant would like greater clarity on what these two lines represent. And is there any difference?
So, I will take this question. So for the green line, it basically represents that the mail articles or the parcel is able to track throughout the flow of chain. Whereas for the red dotted line is there's limitation. However, for some of the products, they are able to be tracked in back levels, which means the mail back level, but not in a individual itemized level. So we would like to expand the scope of traceability in this exercise as well, with the possible technology or combination between the physical hardware or the software and also the chain. Yeah, I hope I answered the questions. Yeah.
I think that was really clear. Thanks so much. Okay, the next question, it's about whether the figures that you've provided is in Sing dollars. I presume it's in Sing dollars, am I right?
Yeah, it's in Sing dollars.
I think Sing dollars. Okay, so for all, our startups that are participating for this challenge, including both Singapore and global foreign startups, all the figures all the prizes and the figures that have been provided by SingPost is in Sing dollars. Yes. Okay, the next question. The incoming, so this participant noted that some of the incoming mail or parcels are not tagged in the first place. So will SingPost be the one doing the tagging?
Then I take this question, then you will add on.
Sure.
Okay. So yes, you are absolutely correct. That's why I think we are also looking for a standardization tagging where it can be picked up by the system available in the market throughout all the touch points. So as you are correctly highlighted that the source from different incoming country has their proprietary on how they are tagged, but we hope that we can spot similarity in all these items that are incoming, and using technology to pick up this identifier as a form of track and trace for our delivery network. So incoming is one of the areas that we are looking in, not forgetting outgoing as well. For local, where those red dots line that you are that is shown in the flow, basically there are traditional mail that you see with a stamp, with an address, and it is not tagged as well. So how can we also find common identifier on all these items and to enable a track and trace? Yeah, Dan, over you.
Yeah. So I think to simplify once again, just one. I'm just reading at my teammates' reply as well. So I think once again is you're right to point out, Lawrence, that there is no unique identifier today. In the track product, or let it be a letter or be it a parcel or packet. As you can see from Xavier's green line, right? We do have those track and trace capability already there. For ordinary mail, once again, I think there is the stress of or cost pressure to apply further tags or labels onto it. So whatever solution that you are putting in for, yes, gun for it, go for a better track and trace technology. If the cost makes sense for us to apply it to even ordinary items, we will take it up from there. I hope that answers your question, Lawrence.
Okay. I think that Lawrence has posed another question. Are there any particular standards to comply with, for example, UPU or GS1? So should our startups be aware of any standards in place that they should also tailor their solution for?
Yeah. So I guess the details once again on any UPU standards, let's bring it on a separate session instead of here. We could run through with potential startups. If you are not familiar with the Postal world, we could do that together with you. GS1, I think, is no questions. We definitely need to make sure that any RFID or any track and trace standards have to comply to GS1.
Okay, so I would encourage, the startups to just submit your proposal soon. And if SingPost is interested to work with you, I believe Xavier, Zen, and Jeffrey and team will stand ready, to share all those nitty-gritty details with you in greater detail so as to help you to refine your proposals as well. So just one quick question on my end to the SingPost team. Do you have any expected timeline in terms of, when a POC can potentially be completed, as well as a potential deployment, just a rough timeline?
Yeah, so I guess we follow the ESG timeline as well with the pitch day. So assuming pitch day is done somewhere September, October, we do want to put speed to this. I guess in the post-COVID world, in the new norm as well, what we are looking for in these two technologies will greatly help us to meet some of our other challenges that we have not been explicit here, but to do with labor, to do with contactless, to do with track and trace, to ensure more secure delivery of items, much needed solution that we would like to start with as soon as possible. So I would say even if pitch day is done in October, probably the first POC or selection will be done within the next 3 months.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of speed to this as well, because in a post-COVID world, innovation is definitely very important for companies like SingPost.
Yeah.
So okay, one question just came in. What is your team's motivation for improving traceability?
Yeah, so I guess like I was mentioning just now, we want a better form of track and trace versus what you see today in the market that the whole industry is doing. So if you could come in with something that makes sense, the ROI will be a second question that we will go in again. Of course, there must be an ROI. So depending on the solution you put forward and the dollars and cents, it might be applied only to the track and trace existing product that we have, the track products. If your numbers come in good enough, we can consider it for the ordinary items.
Okay, thanks so much, Zen. So I think this is a multi-step process as well in terms of co-innovation between solution providers and SingPost as well. In terms of ROI, I think it also very much depends on what is the solution that is ultimately being suggested and worked on as well. And I see that Paula here, thank you for sharing and answering the question. So thank you to SingPost team. Okay, one question. I think somebody asked, Rama asked if you are able to share some of the nitty-gritty details, or would you prefer to
I think this,
work offline with us?
Maybe what Rama is saying in terms of this PPT and this presentation, I believe ESG and IPR will host it on the website. So yeah, the participants will be able to get it.
Okay. So if you're comfortable, I believe some of the participants will get access to it so that they'll be more able to submit a very fruitful proposal as well.
Yeah, so I mean,
so if there are no other,
we are open to any questions. After if your colleagues or team members sees this video post the event after today, do feel free to go to your officer to post questions to us, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Great. Thanks so much, Zen. So thanks to the SingPost team for such an informative sharing and taking the Q&A section so candidly. So we hope that participants with us here today found this particular sharing insightful. So if you have any other questions, feel free to redirect them to our email inbox at tcc2020@enterprise.gov.sg, and we look forward to your submissions by 15th of September 2020. So if there are no further questions, I'd like to hand over to Zen and team if you have any closing remarks before we move on to the next section.
Yeah, so I'm just taking a chance again to wish our Muslim friends and colleagues Selamat Hari Raya for this coming Friday. So have a good holiday, and hope you have fun working at the same time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, wishing all our Malay and Muslim friends Selamat Hari Raya. If any other questions, we look forward to receiving them, and we can definitely redirect them to SingPost. So thank you all for joining us in this SingPost sharing today.